of attending the Pepperdine Graziadio schools from 2006 to 2008. So I went through the MBA program. We were the MBA 67 cohort, and there were about 30 students that went through. And these folks had, it was a tremendous gathering, I think, of diverse backgrounds, as well as industries, as well as perceptions and points of view. So that was definitely a big plus as I was working through it. Now, the time period was sort of post 9/11, when we had a little bit of a recession, and pre the really big recession that hit in 2008. So it was, I'm a customer experience professional and executive who designs and creates really memorable customer experiences, both digital and physical, that really kind of grow brand awareness, grow your brand, and really kind of drive revenue. So at the time when I was attending Pepperdine, I was in marketing, I was in operations, and this was where I really was looking for kind of like, acceleration of career growth.
Right. Very cool, very cool. And that's cool that you're in that industry, because I feel like that's super, even more so today. You see a lot of people that are working in the industry, because that's a really important thing, especially with us living in the digital world. I feel like that's a really very fruitful career. So that's awesome. So kind of moving on to the next question then. So what was your experience pursuing your graduate education in the midst of a recession? And did you have any initial reactions or thoughts as you were going throughout school and kind of thinking about, oh, I'm kind of about to graduate in like a weird time frame? What were your like initial thoughts and reactions?
Yeah. So it was there's definitely a large decision to go into and decide to actually pursue a graduate degree. And a tremendous amount of commitment. And I appreciated the way Pepperdine really kind of mapped out sort of, what is the commitment that you're really going to be placing. They invited our spouses in to come with us, and we really kind of was very transparent, as this is really the degrees of difficulty, the amount of time that you're going to invest, and what you're going to be really asked to do. And so it is a journey that both the student as well as the family really kind of go on at the time. So moving down during the time that I was in taking the classes, business was unfortunately not necessarily accelerating or growing. It was really kind of a little bit stagnant, and in many cases it was declining. So, I did have some classmates that unfortunately, went through some impacts and had to kind of search for another job during the program, and felt relatively safe during that time period. But at the same time, it's one of those things you never know. So, as you get closer to graduation, you definitely sort of see the future, a little bit brighter, that, okay, now I've got, I'm going to have this degree. But it was something that there were, as we were sort of descending into the recession, as I was getting closer to graduation, there were definitely questions around, how we were going to sort of navigate these uncertain times.
Right. Yeah, and I can imagine that would be a little bit stressful. I can't imagine myself. I'm like, I only graduated a few years ago, but I'm like, honestly, I'm glad that I graduated when I did, because I feel like there's unfortunately a lot of stressful things going on right now. So thank you for that answer. And then moving on, I kind of, as we were talking a little bit, as you were approaching the completion of your education, did you have a game plan for what you were going to do post graduation? Kind of thinking like, okay, I know that I'm about to graduate, I'm entering this weird, uncertain time. Did you kind of lay out a framework of what you had wanted to do? Because I'm assuming your plans were changed a little bit.
Yeah, they sure did. It was interesting. During the time I was studying, I was offered a role as a VP of learning and development in the company I was working for. And it was definitely outside of my comfort zone, something I had never done before, something that was sort of outside of my wheelhouse. But the leadership of this organization felt that I was bringing a lot of good ideas, a lot of new and sort of innovative ways of thinking to the table at the time. And to be honest, I did get a lot of them through some of the exercises we were doing during our MBA program. So there was definitely a really strong kind of like overlap. And that was in the 2007 year. Now, so 2008 is getting close to graduation, graduated in April of 2008. And unfortunately, the organization, it was called the Anchor Blue Retail Group that I was working for at the time, declared bankruptcy in May of that same year. So here I was, fresh graduate, MBA in my hand, and suddenly no job, and
Right.
no, not really understanding what I was going to do next. And so, it turned out well. Within a month, by June of that same year, I had really sort of re-engaged my network at the Walt Disney Company, where I had worked for many years previously, and was able to really kind of leverage the MBA to a director role at the Walt Disney Company for the Disney stores. So it was definitely a tale of stress and uncertainty, which actually turned out really well.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you've had some experience working at Disney as well, because I feel like that company right now is unfortunately going through a lot of turmoil. So I think it's interesting to kind of see what they're going to be, what their plans are. But I have good faith in Bob Iger, so I'm hoping that everything will work out
Yeah.
well for them.
Yes. Yes.
And then kind of like you mentioned here in these notes, what are 3 key takeaways you learned from graduating during the Great Recession? I just can imagine that there's going to be a lot of really good learning experiences for people right now, but they won't really be able to reflect on those takeaways until later down the road. But I think that they will learn some valuable things during this time.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because the year 2008 and the year 2020 couldn't be more dramatically different in especially the advances of technology and platforms and other other tools that you sort of have at your disposal. But the lessons are probably going to kind of ring similar and the same. And the first one I would say, the takeaway was really never stop building your network. Your network is definitely a critical part of who you are and who you're going to be and become going forward. And I mentioned before the diversity of both experience and insights and industries of the folks who were in my cohort during my MBA program was one of the most valuable things I could have taken away. And so I still count on them. I still call people, we chat on LinkedIn, we chat via text. Whenever I need like a thought leader in certain industries, there's always someone that I can reach out to and get a hold of. And they've connected me to people in their networks, and they've been able to, connect me with some really great folks. And that's really been invaluable through the years. So definitely never stop building your network. The second thing is really there's no reward without risk. As I mentioned before, I was in the middle of the program, offered this role, which was very difficult. There was a high degree of difficulty in really accepting this position, and had to rebuild a team and really kind of draw a roadmap for really what success looked like. But the tools were there. And it's one of those things where some people say, like, trust your training, trust your education. It's truly really kind of tapping in and, taking that risk and don't necessarily take the safe road. And because there are rewards at the other end, and both financially and from a career path perspective, it definitely helped a great deal. And then the last thing I would say is, as you go out into the world and you start to kind of build a brand, really try and, make sure that you're listening to your customers, really kind of like pay attention to what they're saying, live as much as you can. I'm in customer experience, so this is sort of, what has really kind of turned out well for my success is really kind of listening to people and meeting them face to face and really sharing their pain and their troubles, and where does this website kind of stick or not necessarily run smoothly. Listen to your customers, build your brand according to what they expect, look at your competition, but definitely do what you think is best for your brand.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's really good advice. And I think definitely right now you've seen there's a lot of listening, I think, across a lot of brands, people just really listening to what their customers, like you said, have said. So I think that's great advice. Thank you for that. And then the kind of one of the last questions that we have here is, what advice do you have for upcoming 2020 grads entering the market during turbulent times? I think that's really one of the main things that we wanted to cover in this is kind of, for people that are in that same boat that you were in back in 2008, what does it look like for these future grads? Kind of what advice would you give to them to kind of help set them on their path on positivity versus feeling a little bit more uncertain about what the future may hold?
Yeah, I fully empathize with folks who graduated in 2020. I think that they were, I think to a degree robbed of an experience which was, it's meant to be this sort of magical, almost to the end, and I can kind of goof around a little bit. Um, and everybody had that because everybody was at home studying and trying to do their papers and turn in their their finals from home, which was really bizarre and unique and interesting. And I can completely understand how the the impact can be mentally, and how there's a number of reports about jobs that were like out there, and the offers were made and everything was ready to go, and then it was rescinded, and unfortunately it's not. And I'm going to tell you right now, that happens a lot. Nothing is guaranteed, nothing is perfect, and you've got to be able to really sort of roll with the punches. And I think that one of the biggest pieces of advice is truly build your network. I'm sorry, no, build your brand, build your personal brand, and spend time doing that. Figure out what it is that you're passionate about. Figure out what it is that you are, that really kind of like makes you get excited to wake up in the morning, and then do something to build that brand. Either posting something on LinkedIn, posting something through social media, blogging about it, going on a podcast, speaking at a conference. Do something to be viewed as a subject matter expert in something that you love to do. And it's something that we didn't necessarily have all the same tools we had back in 2008. But this is where I believe you will get closer to doing what you love doing quicker. And building yourself up as that subject matter expert, and having other people to really kind of view you and respect you for your perspectives and the research that you've done, and the work that you continue to do in that area, is going to really kind of help you to get yourself in front of the right people that are going to be able to make things happen for you. I'd say the second thing, and I mentioned this before, which is really the networking perspective. The network. Don't stop talking to people, but come at it from a place where you want to connect people and solve their problems. You've met somebody at this one networking event, and then you met somebody else through through your classroom or through your school or your education, and this person's got an issue that you think this other person could solve. There's nothing more rewarding than doing that. The more you do that, the more you build up your own brand and your reputation for being a problem solver and somebody who's valuable to know. Again, that really kind of builds your brand, and you really kind of become a go-to person for a lot of folks. So really, it's that networking, but coming at it from a place of service, coming at it from a place of wanting to assist and help someone solve their problems, is really going to be a tremendous benefit and asset to you kind of going forward. And then the last thing is just be dogged and relentless. Don't give up. Don't let the negative stuff kind of like get you down. Don't compare yourself to other people on social media. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. I'm telling you, it's not always 100% true. It's definitely rough, but you just got to keep on getting yourself up, getting yourself organized, putting yourself on a schedule, and moving forward to hit your goals. So, I know you got it in you. Definitely don't give up.